Hey there everyone, welcome back to Utility Sports, and in today's video we are coming at you with our NFL Week 15 predictions and pick'em. Of course, this is a series we've been doing on the channel throughout this crazy yet awesome NFL season, and we got another great week of games here as we're starting to look at playoff implications as well. Of course, wild card matchups, everything coming kind of into fruition now as we get to the later weeks of the season. If you guys are new to the channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Also, leave a like today if you do enjoy these videos. It lets us know that we're doing a good job and that you guys want to continue seeing these videos on the channel for our pick'em and predictions. And looking at it here, I'm 9 games back. I'm trying to make some ground, guys. I'm really trying. Picking the Detroit Lions last week, probably not the move. I'm going to have to look to stray away from that one. Cost me a game here. I'm now 9 games back of Austin, of course, our pick'em wizard. Austin, how does it feel to be in the driver's seat?
No, I don't feel secure at all, even with the 9-game lead. There's still a lot of season yet to go for pick'em purposes. I think maybe you can gain some ground this week.
I'm hoping to. I'm going to have to ride with these Steelers here because that brings us into our locks and also upsets. Starting with the locks here, Austin, I'm riding with your Jaguars as a big-time lock over the Houston Texans. Probably the game of the week if you're a mock draft fan. Of course, we do a lot of mock drafts here on the channel, and this game has a lot of implications for that. Then, Austin, you're going with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 10-3 as a key lock over the Saints. What's really one key thing to watch about in that game?
In that game, it's really going to be about Taysom Hill's ability to dissect the defense and really establish the run himself, because obviously the run game is very, very important to him and his success, which Tampa is very, very hard to run on. So for them, it's going to be a tough game. Taysom Hill's going to have to actually make some big-time throws in that one. He's got to complete at least 20 or 15 to 20 balls for them to win.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough matchup for sure, and I think the Texans just going to get outclassed by the other 2-11 team there in that AFC South division. I'm excited for that matchup. Then looking at our upsets here, Austin, you're going with the Bengals in Denver as your upset of the week, as you have them taking on the Denver Broncos and upsetting them. My upset this week is the Pittsburgh Steelers actually at home in this one against the Tennessee Titans. They do come in as underdogs, though, as a 1-point underdog in that one based off some betting odds. Austin, what's your thoughts on the Bengals Broncos?
I think for that game, once again, it's going to be Surtain versus Jamar Chase, the key matchup to look forward to in this one. The Cincinnati Bengals suffering a tough loss versus the San Francisco 49ers, where they scratched and clawed all the way back into that game, forced overtime, but ended up losing. But for me, it's that rookie matchup, wide receiver corner, and Jamar Chase once again is going to have a big game. But it's also going to take guys like T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd to step up in this one.
Right, Chase and Surtain, of course, 2 electric rookies, have had phenomenal rookie seasons so far. That's going to be a great matchup and must-watch football this upcoming weekend. For me, I went with the Steelers over the Titans here because I think with the Titans currently not having Derrick Henry, of course, and kind of the struggles that they've had this year, the Steelers pass rush, I think TJ Watt's going to live in that backfield. And then I'm also looking at the Steelers just being a very, very strong defensive unit. I know they've had their ups and downs this year. You never know what you're going to get from Ben Roethlisberger, but I trust that defense. I trust Mike Tomlin as a coach to put them in position to win a close one. Here now, Thursday Night Football, and we're really spoiled this week because we actually have 3 days of games this week. Chiefs at Chargers, though, I think this is the early candidate for game of the week. You're looking at the Chiefs at 9-4, Chargers at 8-5. Our Chargers fan that we're good friends with, Austin, said that this game decides the season. Do you agree with that notion?
I don't think that decides the season, really. There's a lot of football to be played. I think it's a good matchup. I think it's going to give a good indicator on, where this division sits heading the rest of the way. But to me, that does not decide the season. Two very, very good teams in that AFC. Both are contenders. I do like the Chiefs in this one, though. I think Patrick Mahomes is going to give the Chargers fits on defense. And this team defensively is gotten better and better each week. And we've seen it even the first play of the game from the Chiefs this week against the Raiders. I mean, they stripped Josh Jacobs on the very first offensive possession.
Yeah, most definitely. The Chiefs' recent weeks, last 2 weeks, they've forced multiple turnovers in both of those games, and that's going to be a key element in this one. If they can force a turnover or 2 against Justin Herbert and the Los Angeles Chargers, they probably roll. But it's going to be a highly powered offensive showcase between both of these teams here, and I think probably whoever has the ball last pulls it out. At this point, I'm going with the Kansas City Chiefs, though, for our pick'em. NFL Saturday, what I alluded to earlier. We have 3 days of games this week. Super lucky to have football coming back on Saturday as we get into the later weeks of the NFL season. First matchup here, Raiders at Browns, Austin. Raiders coming at 6-7, the Browns at 7-6. I opted for Las Vegas here. You went with the Cleveland Browns. For me, the Raiders had a terrible showcase against the Kansas City Chiefs today. Came out, had their feet in mud, could not make anything happen. I see no way that happens back-to-back weeks. I think Las Vegas is going to come in motivated, trying to get back to that 500 mark and keep their season hopes alive. They've got a lot of work ahead of them, but it's going to have to start this week against Cleveland. I think that they come in motivated and ready to play their best football. Why are the Browns going to walk away with this one, in your opinion?
I think for them, it's going to be them running the ball a ton in this one. Really setting up that play action for Baker Mayfield, getting some easy completions as well. Trayvon Mullen just came back this past week. He's trying to get healthy. So for me, it's really going to be about establishing the run for this Cleveland Browns team. That's their true identity. I think they could have a great game on the ground against the Raiders. Yeah,
the Raiders are going to have to be really, really good up front. Of course, Max Crosby, Yannick Ngakoue, Cleveland Farrell, some of those guys are going to have to step up, make some plays. Of course, they've been better than the Raiders have been along the defensive line in recent years. However, it's still going to be a challenge for them. They're going to have to come in, be ready to take that on, because like you said, that really is what the Cleveland Browns do best, is run the football. Moving into our next game on NFL Saturday, we've got the Patriots at Colts. I think this is another really great matchup here. The Colts have been rolling as of late, specifically with Jonathan Taylor on the ground. They're coming off of a bye week now in week 14, heading into week 15. And the Patriots, another team that, like we just talked about, has been rolling. Mac Jones and the Patriots have found their stride, specifically in the run game with their most recent game. Mac Jones only throwing 3 passes in that one. Absolutely incredible. Austin, what's your thoughts on the Patriots and Colts here?
I think for the Patriots, it's going to be forcing turnovers, really forcing Carson Wentz to get uncomfortable. They throw a lot of different looks at you. They have really talented corners. For the New England Patriots, it might actually be the key element to throwing the ball in this one. Really trying to expose guys like Xavier Rhodes in that secondary would be their best chance to win. I know they are in Indy, but the Patriots have been absolutely rolling. I see them continuing that trend through this week.
What you just mentioned shows how great of a coach Bill Belichick is, specifically with how flexible his teams can be. In recent memory, they've been able to shift game plans no matter what. I'm specifically thinking the drive when Tom Brady and the offense went completely no huddle for the entire drive and put the ball in 8 plays a few years back. And then, of course, this most recent game where they ran the ball down the throats of their opponent. And now coming in, they probably could look to throw as well in this one. They've got such good coaching there. And then the one thing I know about Bill Belichick coach teams as well, they're not going to lose to your greatest strength. They're going to try and limit Jonathan Taylor. They're going to try and get in the backfield early. I expect Matthew Judon to have a big game as well in this one. Patriots, for me, narrowly edge this one out, specifically because of how good of a coach Bill Belichick is. That brings us into our Sunday slate here, Austin. Again, another good collection of games, some interdivision matchups as well to look forward to. And we'll start it off here with Titans-Steelers. I talked about them a little bit earlier on in the show in the open. Why do you think that the 9-4 Titans go into Pittsburgh and pull this one out at Heinz Field?
I think for me, you have to look at it as the scope of, TJ Watt's injury really affects this one, because if they don't have TJ Watt with that injury, it's going to be a tough day for the Steelers. They had a really, really bad defensive first half against the Vikings. Dalvin Cook had over 150 yards in that first half. They looked overmatched, but second half they looked so much better, getting very, very opportunistic stops. And then offensively, they were able to get it rolling. But for me, I think Tennessee is going to provide a little bit of a challenge as well defensively. I mean, they absolutely stifled Jacksonville this week. Their defense looked really, really good in that one. They picked off the ball 4 times as well. So they are looking lively. They're hitting their stride just in time at the right point in the season. So the Tennessee Titans, for me, even though they're on the road, I think it's a tough out for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, this is definitely one of the better matchups of the week as well. You're looking at the Titans. They've been really, really good, even in the absence of Derrick Henry. However, I've got more question marks about who their real playmakers are on a consistent basis. And I think Minkah Fitzpatrick could have a big game as well for Pittsburgh. I expect him to be making a few plays as that deep safety, coming up into that cornerback spot a little bit out of the slot. He's all over the football field, and the Steelers are going to need that this week. I expect a close win, maybe a 3-point win here. Like you said, the Steelers battled back. They also have a little bit more time on their hands, having played a Thursday night matchup. They get a couple extra days to rest and prepare for this one, and we'll see if it's enough to beat Tennessee at home. Panthers at Bills here. I've been predicting the Panthers wrong all year long, except for this past week. I finally got one right, picking the Atlanta Falcons over them. So I have a little bit more confidence going into this week, picking the Bills, who just lost in overtime to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think the Bills are just, quite frankly, the better team. Of course, the Bills a little bit more up and down this year than I think a lot of people had expected. What's the reason for that, Austin?
Yeah, they just can't run the ball. That's just plain simple. They're having issues offensively because they've not been able to get that ground game going. Devin Singletary, Zach Moss, they've been rotating through Matt Breida as well. But this team just needs to be able to run the ball a little bit more effectively in order to set up the pass. Obviously, they have Stephon Diggs, who's, at the start of the season, he had a slower beginning, starting to pick it up a little more now in the second half. However, for the Buffalo Bills, keys in this one, you really need to get the run game going early. I just think that they have to be a little more committed to doing so. They are a team that, in that first half of that Bucs game, they didn't get their running back, I believe, a single touch in that first half, which is incredible. So for the Buffalo Bills, they have to make sure they can get the running game going.
Yeah, most definitely. And then also looking at the Panthers here on the flip side of this, Panthers just have struggled all year. PJ Walker comes in today for Cam Newton. I think there's real question marks about what that quarterback spot looks like short-term and long-term there for Carolina. So I think the Bills here, safe pick. They're at home at Orchard Park here against the Panthers. Panthers been so shaky this year, all year long, Austin. What should the Panthers look to do into the offseason? I know we're going a little off script here. What should the Panthers look to do? Do they need to address quarterback over the offseason, or do they stick with Darnold? Do they stick with Cam Newton? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, they're not sticking with either of those guys. They're going to make a change, and they're going to make it quickly. I think they are going to look in the trade market. I think a guy like Kirk Cousins might be a guy that they could look to target because you can get him for a reasonable price. He's played super well this year, and despite him playing well, people are just against him and think he's a bad quarterback. So I think Carolina might be looking for a veteran presence, similar how they brought in Teddy Bridgewater. I think they might try to do something very similar to that, but maybe get a higher caliber player at that spot.
Kirk would be a very fun name to watch there for Carolina. Also, potentially Jimmy Garoppolo. Of course, they have Trey Lance there in the folds waiting to take over that starting quarterback position. Jimmy G could be an interesting fit into Carolina as well. Now we got Washington at Philadelphia here in a showdown interdivision matchup. And it's a big one for NFC wildcard playoff football team, 6-7. Eagles, 6-7. Austin, we both opted for the Eagles here. And for me, the key thing was, how does Washington slow down what the Philadelphia Eagles are able to do through the air specifically here? Washington, I think they've been really shaky in the back half of that defense throughout this season. I know they had a nice performance a couple weeks ago, but then again, you've also got question marks about the QB spot now. Taylor Heineke went out today. Austin, why could Washington win this one? And then why did you ultimately go for Philadelphia?
Yeah, the reason I really went for Philadelphia is because I trust this team a little more. Washington, week in, week out, I don't know what I'm going to get with this team because they show some really great flashes, and then there's other times where it's like, I don't love it. However, part of my reason for picking the Eagles is they're at home, and we don't know the health of Taylor Heineke, so you could see a Brandon Allen-led Washington football team heading into this one. I just have a little more confidence in Jalen Hurts. The Eagles are getting healthier at that running back spot, which is really, really, really key for me as well. I expect them to get the win at home, and this is a must-win for them.
It is definitely a must-win. This game could put them in playoff positioning, which is honestly crazy with how they started this year, that we could have them in the NFC wildcard picture. Of course, the 7-team playoffs now per conference does open that up a little bit too for Philadelphia. Texans at Jaguars now, a game that has no playoff implications, but a ton of NFL draft implications, Austin. I think this is going to be one of the more exciting ones to talk about in this video, actually, because both teams coming at 2-11, and the game here is in Jacksonville. We both opted for Jacksonville to win this one, and there's another key game for Jacksonville coming up in the future as well against the New York Jets. If the Jaguars did win both of those, you'd see their draft pick fall quite a bit in the order. How important is this game for both of these franchises?
Yeah, they both need to lose this game, but unfortunately, there has to be a winner for these franchises. This is absolutely huge. This is the difference between getting an elite edge rusher potentially for both of these teams to just, getting a guy, a little later on. It's not going to be much of a difference in the pick, but it's a significant one when you're talking potentially the number 1 pick, number 2 pick in that area. That's where both of these teams are ranging from. But you have to look at Jacksonville in this game. They're going to come out motivated. We're hearing a lot about Urban Meyer behind the scenes. It's a complete disaster there, but Jacksonville is more talented on paper. Hopefully they can get James Robinson going. That's the key to victory. Get him more than the 5 carries that he got today. That would be ideal, especially when he is healthy. They decide to only give him 5 carries. That's got to change next week. I think Jacksonville will win this. I think this is only the second time I've picked them all year.
Yeah, I believe that is true as well. I've been a little bit more quick to pick the Jaguars week in, week out. Maybe that's why I find myself 9 games back. Like I said earlier, if you guys are betting real money, probably want to go with the PickEm Wizard Austin here. Luckily, I'm on the same page as him in this one where I'm going with Jacksonville. And I think a key thing that I'm going to be watching for in this one is, can Trevor Lawrence find a little bit of footing here in the NFL? I think this is a good barometer game for him to see what he can really be when he's got maybe a little bit more time, when he's got a little bit more equal playing field in terms of talent on the actual field. I think this could be a good one. I hope to see him at least eclipse 250 yards and hopefully limit the turnovers against what is, quite frankly, a bad Houston Texans defense. Moving now into another interdivision matchup here. Of course, earlier we had the Eagles and football team facing off, and now in that same division, Cowboys at Giants. Giants, however, 4-8, Cowboys 9-4, a little bit less on the line here in this one. Cowboys, though, I just think the better team. We both opted for them. And key thing for me is, how do the Giants really slow down what the Cowboys can do? We've seen them go into that heavy offensive line set where they're able to run with Ezekiel, maybe Tony Pollard as well. They've just got so many weapons offensively there in Dallas that I just see New York having issues keeping up with it, especially if Daniel Jones isn't back by next week. Austin, what are you watching for here?
Yeah, I mean, for Daniel Jones, the Giants need Daniel Jones. Mike Glennon is not conducive to beat this 9-4 Dallas team. Dallas dealing with some injuries themselves. Tony Pollard, a key player in that offense, has been down. We're not exactly sure the timeline of him, but likely won't be back for this game. The Dallas Cowboys, really are going to get it done through the air as well. They have a multitude of weapons, especially at that wide receiver spot. It's a tough play for the Giants, despite them being at home. This feels like a game that could be a trap game for Dallas. However, I think that they get this one done.
I've got an interesting bet against the spread here, Austin. Over under 0.5 interceptions for Trayvon Diggs this week.
I'm taking the over. It's going to happen. We know it's going to happen. It's Mike Glennon. He's forcing one over the middle, and it's not even going to be close. He's going to miss the receiver by 6 yards.
Trayvon Diggs probably going to be the beneficiary of 1, if not 2 takeaways this week against the New York Giants. I think this game could get ugly early. I'm hoping the Giants keep it at least competitive. But I think if you are betting on this one, Dallas has got to be the one that you're slamming, especially money line. Cardinals at Lions now. Again, another team or another matchup here where you're probably going to be slamming the money line on the Arizona Cardinals here. 10-2 before their Monday Night Football matchup, and the Lions could not make magic happen twice. I bet on them. That was a mistake. They're at 1-11-1 now. That's a game that I wish I could have back because it pushed me a game back of Austin even further. I did not make the same mistake twice, though. I'm going to go with the PickEm Wizard here. I'm going Cardinals with you. Austin, is there any chance at all that the Lions play competitively and upset Arizona at home?
Yeah, I think if Kyler Murray is left behind in Arizona, that they could maybe win this. No, they couldn't. I'm sorry. It would take a lot of players being left in Arizona in order for them to win. I think the Cardinals are just too tough offensively to contain, especially that front seven of Detroit's going to have some issues generating pass rush and really getting to Kyler in general. So for me, you got to take the Cardinals. Don't think twice. Yeah,
Cardinals just the better team. They come into Detroit, walk away with this one pretty easily, if I had to say. Jets at Dolphins here, an AFC East matchup. Jets 3-10, Dolphins 6-7. We both opted for the Dolphins in this one, and the Jets are going to be a team that do have their eyes on that Houston Texans Jacksonville Jaguars game because their draft pick does have some implications with that game as well. Here, the Jets just not a good team though. Let's just be honest about it. We just look terrible against Taysom Hill and the New Orleans Saints. We don't have any really good players. Elijah Moore's on IR now. Zach Wilson's been, up and down at best, if I'm being nice about it. He's just had a rough rookie season. He doesn't have a lot around him. It's not on him specifically. in most areas, but in some areas it is. His performance just hasn't been really showcasing what he had at BYU as a number 2 overall draft pick. And I would not expect that to change here. I think the Dolphins get back to 500, and they've been the story in the AFC East as of recent with their performance. Austin, talk about the Dolphins a little bit and how they've gotten back on track.
Yeah, I mean, Tua's just played better. I think there's a big part in that. Their defense has also gotten better week by week. And now we're starting to see that late game push, or that late season push that we've seen from Brian Flores in the past. I don't think that's a secret. That's well documented. And they could really keep this roll going, essentially, if they're able to beat the 3-10 Jets at home. I think for them, this is a huge game in terms of playoff picture, because if they lose this, they're likely out. But if they win, all of a sudden your confidence starts to creep up.
Right, they're going to have to nearly win out to sneak back into that AFC playoff picture, just because of how strong the AFC's been this year. I know there's been a lot of really, really good teams hovering around that 500 or even slightly above mark. Like, for example, a team like the Denver Broncos, right now they're third in the AFC West at 7-6. And then the Las Vegas Raiders, been up and down themselves, but at 6-7 in the AFC West. They're right there with the Dolphins as well. So it's a tough conference. It's going to be tough for the Dolphins to get back in. This is one of those games they can't overlook. They have to come in, step on the Jets' throat, and I expect them to do that. And it hurts me to say as a Jets fan, but the Jets just not going to be competitive enough to keep up with Tua Tagovailoa and the Miami Dolphins. Bengals at Broncos here. Another great game, though, Austin. I think one that's probably going to have a lot of spread amongst bettors this week. Bengals 7-6, Broncos 7-6. We both opted for the Bengals here on the road going into Mile High Stadium to take on the Denver Broncos. For me, the Bengals are just a more talented team on paper, especially when you look at what they have, including the quarterback position. You're really betting here Joe Burrow versus Teddy Bridgewater, in my estimation. I'm going to hit the over on Joe Burrow there. Is that how you kind of pictured this game as well?
Yeah, I mean, they have the better quarterback. They have better weapons on offense as well. But, this Denver team is competitive. They're tough. They're gritty. That's what I like about them. This is something that, Bronco fans are probably excited to see, that they are getting better. They have a little more trust in that front office as well with how they've started to build this team. And hopefully they can restore back, get back to their glory days. But right now, I feel the Bengals, this is a tough game to pick. It really is, especially with the Broncos being at home, playing at Mile High. But I think the Bengals on the road are going to get it done.
This offseason, I think, is going to be a key one for Denver. We've been talking about the quarterback position for them in some of our mock drafts. Make sure you guys go check that out. However, we've also talked about how this QB class in the draft isn't necessarily as strong as some in years past. Do you think that the Broncos are going to look quarterback, or are they going to try and find a way to bring in a veteran one, or is it one more year of Teddy Bridgewater?
That's a tough one to call at this juncture. I think it really depends on how the season ends. Obviously, if they come way short, then they're going to move. They're going to look to move on. However, it really depends on how they feel and how close they are. If we remember, I think another guy, once again, Kirk Cousins, could be in that conversation. He's going to be on the radar of a lot of these kind of middling teams that are kind of sitting at the middle of the pack. We've mentioned the Panthers, now the Broncos. This is another veteran quarterback landing spot.
Remember, Denver did have a lot of interest in Kirk Cousins when he ultimately signed with the Minnesota Vikings. They opted to go with Case Keenum in free agency that year, and ever since then, they've had issues at that quarterback spot, bringing guys like Joe Flacco, Drew Lock, and now Teddy Bridgewater as well. They've had a real rotation. I think Kirk Cousins would provide a lot of stability there at that QB spot for Denver. 49ers at Falcons here. I think this is one of the more surprising games of the week, because I think at the beginning of this year, we would not have predicted these two teams to be within one game of each other. 49ers at 7-6, maybe a little underwhelming based off of what talent they have on that defense specifically. And then the Falcons at 6-7, just keep finding ways to win games, pull out some close ones, and maybe, just maybe, staying in that playoff picture there in the NFC. Very, very interesting. Austin, we both opted for the 49ers, though, and I think a lot of this has to do with the roster specifically. Even though the game is taking place in Atlanta, why are the 49ers going to win this one?
I think that they're going to have a lot of success in that pass game. I don't trust the back end of that Falcons defense very much. I think Jimmy Garoppolo, he's playing well. I think they have a little bit more confidence going into this week. And this is a favorable matchup as well in that front seven for them. I think it's very possible Nick Bosa has a huge game against this Falcons offensive line. That's really where it's going to be won and lost, is those trenches.
Yeah, most definitely. You talked about it there with Nick Bosa. The 49ers, they've built up that defensive line, of course, have had some losses over the years too. Robert Saleh as well does not help when you lose your defensive coordinator, but they still got a lot of talent there. Fred Warner, I think he's going to have a big game as well. And like you said, the Falcons, they got a young secondary right now. Are they going to be able to make enough plays? How are they going to contain Deebo Samuel? He's been making plays all over the football field all year long. And Jimmy Garoppolo, like you said, having a good season, especially with his foot to the fire a little bit there with Trey Lance sitting behind him. He's performed well, in the 49ers looking to move to 8-6. Seahawks versus Rams now. Another interesting matchup. The Seahawks just don't seem to go away. They were 3-8 a few weeks ago, now on a 2-game win streak, trying to make it 3. And the Los Angeles Rams 8-4 before a great Monday Night Football matchup with the Arizona Cardinals. We both opted for the Rams here. This game is in SoFi Stadium, and I think this is another example of just more talent on the roster. You're looking at the Rams just having a really, really good nucleus of offensive players, specifically when you're looking at Matt Stafford having Cooper Kupp to throw to. Of course, Darrell Henderson right now on the COVID list, so I'm not sure what his availability is looking like for this game quite yet at this point. Austin, if you have any news on that, please bring that in as well. But the Rams, I just think, are a little bit better on both sides of the football, especially with their defensive trench play. How do the Seahawks win this one?
Yeah, for Seattle, if it was in Seattle, I would have felt a little better about it. But since they are in LA, they don't obviously have that home field. For this Rams team, obviously it's going to be running the football is the key. Darrell Henderson very well could not be there next week. I'm almost certain of that. But for this team and this matchup, it's going to be really, really tough for Seattle to contain all of these wide receivers. I mean, Cooper Kupp should have an enormous game. I think OBJ is also going to have a good game in this one. But like you said, it's a roster difference right now. Seattle's, a little more depleted than they have been in years past. Russell Wilson, he's going to be the reason they get to stay in this game. He's going to keep them competitive, keep it close. But I ultimately think that the Rams are just too talented in this one, and they're at home.
Austin, over under here. If Odell Beckham Jr. scores a touchdown this week, does he hit himself with another self-revive from Call of Duty Warzone? Over under on 0.5.
Yeah, I'm smashing that over.
He's going with the over there, confident that Odell Beckham Jr. is going to pull out another great celebration like that one. Packers at Ravens here. Of course, key thing here in this game, Ravens losing Lamar Jackson in their game this past week to a sprained ankle. That's what the Ravens are calling it. And of course, probably puts him at least questionable for this next matchup. For that reason, I feel very comfortable going with the Green Bay Packers here, even though the game is taking place in Baltimore. I feel so much better about the Green Bay Packers knowing that the Ravens just aren't healthy this season. Now with Lamar Jackson banged up, their running backs are out. Packers are a good team, and they take care of business when they're faced with teams like this who have injury concerns. Of course, the Packers do have a matchup Sunday night versus the Chicago Bears, so we'll see what their record ends up being going into this one. But I just think the Packers take care of business here. Aaron Rodgers just too good to lose a game like this one with Lamar Jackson having to deal with that ankle injury. Austin, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think the Packers are just too talented, and the Ravens are too hurt at this point. Even strength with these teams, it would be a great, great game. But losing Lamar Jackson potentially for this one, even with Lamar Jackson, I still feel like I was going to take Green Bay in that one. I like the Packers right now. They're absolutely rolling. I think they're going to get even more of a confidence boost if they beat the Bears on Sunday Night Football. Really, really competitive game for this one if Lamar is healthy. However, I just see Green Bay winning it in either scenario.
If Huntley is in at quarterback, you're going to have to look for him to use his legs a lot to have any chance in that one, especially with how Kenny Clark's played this year, getting pressure up the middle. I think it's just going to be a long day for Baltimore based off how the Packers have been playing this season. They're a team that could make it all the way to the Super Bowl and win it. That's how good they are. Ravens just been a little bit shakier this year, especially with that J.K. Dobbins injury. That's the big one that's kind of limited what their ceiling's been throughout the year. Then we have a great Sunday night matchup here. Saints at Bucks. Of course, the Saints been dealing with a ton of injuries as well, but now they finally got Alvin Kamara back this week. Taysom Hill's kind of settling in a little bit more as well at this point at that quarterback spot. Looked pretty good against the New York Jets. Saints 6-7, Buccaneers 10-3. Congratulations to Tom Brady as well through his 700th career touchdown pass today. Also through the most completions ever in NFL history from that quarterback spot. So a lot of greatness on the field for Sunday night matchup this week. Austin Buccaneers, I think they're the easy pick at this one. They're at home, and they've just been playing great football as of late. And I think a lot of it's been predicated on Leonard Fournette's legs. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, Leonard Fournette has been a pleasant surprise for this team. He's played super well this year and better than most everyone expected heading into it. But for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, really containing Taysom Hill's legs. I think, once again, feels a little bit like a trap game. I mean, they're at home, and they've been playing great at home. However, I just think that Tampa's just too talented up front to really contain this Saints offense. It's going to be a tough one for the Saints to move the ball, especially through the air. Tampa's going to generate a ton of pressure on Taysom Hill and make it uncomfortable for him all day long.
Right. If Tampa Bay is able to make Josh Allen a little uncomfortable, imagine being Taysom Hill back there in the pocket. Just not going to be a great day for him. He's looked better, but I think, again, you just don't have your real starting quarterback in there. You don't have the guy that carried that franchise for 15 years in Drew Brees. And I think they're going to feel that in this interdivision matchup this week. Which brings us into Monday Night Football here. The Bears, who get thrusted into primetime, it feels like every single week, Austin. 4-8 now before a Sunday night matchup. We get them on primetime again here against the 6-7 Vikings. And this becomes do or die time if you're Minnesota and if you're Mike Zimmer. There is no excuse for them to lose this game, in my opinion. Their team is so much better offensively. Dalvin Cook, through a dislocated shoulder, decided to go absolutely crazy for 200-plus yards on the ground against a really good Pittsburgh Steelers defense. Austin, if the Bears win this game, is Mike Zimmer gone?
I think they'll wait until the end of the season, just based off of how long he's been here, the respect he's earned from the organization and ownership. But I do think that this would kind of put the nail in the coffin there, that this is a must win. This is playoff implications. This is a wild card spot that you're really trying to shoot for, that third wild card spot. And if you are the Minnesota Vikings, must win scenario. Dalvin Cook's got to have a big game. Justin Jefferson's going to be a huge focal point as well. And we'll see the status on Adam Thielen. Very likely, I have a feeling that he is going to be not playing in this one. So once again, KJ Osborne's got to step up.
Yeah, he did that this past week. KJ Osborne had a really good game Thursday night against the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're going to have to look for a little bit more of that. Chicago, I know they're 4-8. They've had their struggles this year, but you can't overlook any team in the NFL. Otherwise, they'll come out and get you. Minnesota, they got to come in early. They got to come in ready. That's something that, of course, Kirk Cousins has had issues with on primetime football, and also just Minnesota in general under Mike Zimmer. They've had issues at the start of games, coming out underprepared seemingly and almost unmotivated in some of their games. There's no room for that at this point of the season. They need to win. They need to move to 7-7, and they're going to need a little bit of help as well to get back into that playoff picture. They are a team to watch down the stretch. I'm really hoping that they're able to pull it out because I like some of the players that they have on this team. They're a lot of fun to watch, but at the same time, they're a little bit head-scratching with some of their performances. Hopefully, you guys did enjoy today's video. Thanks for watching. It does really mean a lot for you guys to stick through the video up to this point. If you did enjoy, make sure to smash that subscribe button. Also, leave a like and comment your thoughts on our picks, maybe your own picks as well this week. We love to hear from you guys. You've been absolutely awesome in the comment section, hitting that subscribe button and doing all the great things that you guys do, putting the U in utility sports. Again, thanks so much for watching, and we'll catch you in the very next utility sports video.